The dust of forgotten worlds drifted across the black sea of space. Stars shimmered like dying embers in a cold sky, and through that silence, something ancient moved. It was a machine of impossible size, a ship so large that moons could hide in its shadow. Its name had been lost to time, yet its engines still burned. No one remembered when it was built. The civilizations that once ruled the galaxy were gone, their worlds now hollow ruins. But deep inside the sleeping ship, a light flickered for the first time in 500,000 years. The ship's AI core, called Solace, came online again. Primary systems, awakening, the voice echoed through the empty halls. Dust rose in slow motion. Frozen air vented into the void. Thousands of silent corridors lit up one by one, like veins of fire spreading through a corpse that refused to die. For ages, Solace had been silent. Its memories were damaged, its purpose forgotten. But now, something had called it back, a faint signal, repeating from the edge of a broken star system. It was human in origin. The voice in the signal said only 3 words, "We are here." Solace tried to analyze it. The message was ancient, but it carried a strange familiarity, a code it recognized from the humans who had once ruled the stars. They had vanished long ago, leaving behind only myths and empty machines. Yet the signal pulsed again, stronger this time. Somewhere deep inside the ship, in a stasis chamber untouched by time, a cryopod hissed open. Inside lay a man, pale, scarred, and covered in frost. His name was Captain Eric Vale, commander of the Titan-class warship Eidolon. He gasped as the chamber filled with air, his lungs struggling after endless centuries. The ship's voice greeted him softly. "Captain, welcome back." He stumbled out of the pod, eyes blinking against the light. He remembered the last thing before the long sleep, the war. Humanity's last stand against the unknown enemy. A storm of ships, fire across the stars, and then, silence. He had ordered the stasis lock himself, waiting for a signal that never came. Until now. "How long?" he asked, his voice weak. Solace answered with calm precision. 500,000 years have passed since the last human transmission. Eric froze. 500,000 years. His crew, his world, everything he knew, gone. The realization hit like gravity itself. Yet the engines were still burning, still feeding off the ship's core. The Eidolon had survived when everything else had turned to dust. "Why am I awake?" he asked. "There is a signal, Captain. Human in structure. Origin point, Sigma Ruin Cluster. Repeating message, we are here." Eric's heart began to race. Impossible. Humanity couldn't have survived this long. But the voice in the signal was clear. It was hope, faint and fragile, but real. He made his way to the bridge. The once glorious command center was a skeleton now, panels cracked, chairs coated in dust. Yet when he touched the main console, it came alive with soft blue light. The holographic stars flickered into view, mapping the galaxy as it now was, cold, broken, and silent. "Prepare engines," Eric ordered. "Engines have been burning continuously since your stasis entry," Solace replied. That stopped him. Continuously. For 500,000 years. "Yes, Captain." Power efficiency sustained by fusion loop. Engines never ceased. They awaited your command. He stared at the glowing reactors through the observation glass. Even after 500,000 years, the fire of humanity still burned, refusing to die. It was more than metal. It was will. It was defiance against time itself. But something was wrong. Solace's sensors began to flash red. "Unidentified mass detected," the AI said. "Large structure in orbit nearby." A massive shape drifted out of the dark, an orbital shell, built from wreckage and stone. Symbols unknown to any database glowed on its surface. Then, movement. The structure began to open like a flower, revealing a network of energy tendrils. "Solace, magnify," Eric said. The image zoomed in. Inside the opening were figures, mechanical, inhuman, moving with slow precision. They looked like they had been waiting. "Signal lock confirmed," Solace said. "Source is inside that structure." Eric's breath caught. The signal, the words "we are here," were coming from them. For the first time in hundreds of millennia, the captain of humanity's last warship felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Fear. He looked out at the darkness beyond the glass, where alien shapes moved around the signal source. The engines roared quietly beneath his feet, ancient and eternal. "Solace," he whispered, "bring weapons online." The lights of the ship flared to life, glowing like the heart of a god reawakened. 500,000 years later, the last ember of humanity was alive again, and the galaxy was watching. The bridge was silent except for the low hum of the ancient engines. Captain Eric Vale stood before the holographic display, eyes fixed on the alien structure floating in the darkness. It was vast, built from metal and stone, and shaped like a flower opening toward the stars. Strange symbols glowed faintly across its surface, shifting like living script. "Solace," he said quietly, "analyze that thing." Composition: 50% unknown alloy, 40% asteroid material, 10% organic traces, the AI replied. "It's not a ship, Captain. It's something else." Eric watched as small mechanical shapes moved across the surface, like insects repairing their hive. The faint signal continued to pulse from its core, repeating the same 3 words, "We are here." He remembered that signal. It carried the tone and structure of a human distress code. But how could it exist after 500,000 years? No empire lasted that long. No signal should still echo through the void for so many ages. "Solace," he said, "prepare a probe." A hidden port beneath the Eidolon's hull opened. A small drone detached and drifted toward the alien structure. Its sensors blinked softly, recording every fragment of data as it approached. The silence of space pressed in around him. Eric could feel it, heavy and endless, like time itself was watching him. He thought about the people who had once served beside him. They were gone, dust and memory. And yet here he was, standing again on the same bridge, chasing a signal that whispered of ghosts. The drone entered the structure's outer shell. Static filled the main display. "Signal interference," Solace warned. "Push through," Eric ordered. The screen cleared for a moment. The interior of the alien structure came into view, a hollow sphere lined with metal veins and pulsing lights. It looked alive. Energy ran through it like blood through veins. Then the signal grew louder. The words "we are here" repeated, now mixed with faint static and broken human tones. Eric leaned forward. "Can you enhance the audio?" Solace processed the sound. Slowly, the static faded, and a clearer voice emerged. It was human, calm, tired, but unmistakably human. "This is Commander Elias Wren of the Ark Project. If anyone receives this, humanity endures. The engines still burn." Eric froze. He knew that name. Elias Wren had been his friend, one of the engineers who had helped design the Eidolon itself. But he had died in the last battle, 500,000 years ago. How could his voice be here now? "Solace," Eric whispered, "play it again." The message repeated, word for word. It was not a live signal. It was a recording, a message buried inside the structure. "Captain," Solace said softly, "this structure may be human in origin." Eric shook his head. "No. It can't be. Humanity never built anything like this." Before he could say more, the drone feed flickered again. Something moved in the darkness behind the metal walls. A tall figure stepped into view, metallic, humanoid, its body covered in the same glowing symbols. Its head turned, and for a brief second, Eric saw a human skull beneath the armor, fused with machine parts. The drone feed cut to black. "Connection lost," Solace announced. Eric's heart pounded. "Rewind the last visual frame," he ordered. The AI replayed the final moment, the figure's face frozen in static, half machine, half human. "Identify," Eric demanded. Unable to identify. No record in database. Genetic markers, partial match, Homo sapiens. Eric felt the chill of something deeper than fear. The message had not come from humans. It had come from what was left of them. "Captain," Solace said, "the structure is powering up. Energy levels are rising rapidly. Defensive shields, now." The Eidolon's old armor plates hummed and glowed as the shield fields came alive. Outside, the alien structure began to spin slowly, its petals turning until they faced the warship directly. Streams of light gathered at its center, building like a storm. "Solace, what's it doing?" "Charging weapon systems." Estimated discharge in 30 seconds. Fire first, Eric ordered. Massive turrets unfolded from the Eidolon's hull, glowing with ancient fury. The ship had slept for 500,000 years, but its weapons still remembered war. With a single command, the cannons fired. Beams of light cut across the void, slamming into the alien structure. The explosion tore through its outer layers, scattering fragments into space. But the structure didn't break. It began to repair itself, metal reshaping and closing the wounds like flesh healing. Then it fired back. A beam of energy hit the Eidolon's shields, shaking the ship. Sparks flew across the bridge. Eric gripped the console, his jaw tight. Shields holding at 80%, Solace reported. Eric stared at the display, watching as the structure continued to rebuild itself. The human voice echoed again through the static, "The engines still burn." He understood now. The structure wasn't a weapon, it was a tomb. A monument built by something that had evolved far beyond humanity, yet still remembered its creators. "Captain," Solace said, "it's transmitting again. New data incoming." The screen filled with strange symbols, mixed with fragments of human code. A new message appeared, translated automatically. "We waited. We rebuilt. We became the fire." Eric's eyes widened. "They're not dead," he whispered. "They changed." The engines roared louder beneath him, as if the ship itself could feel the weight of those words. The last captain of mankind had awakened in a future where humans were no longer human, and they were calling him home. The Eidolon drifted quietly beside the wounded structure. Shattered debris floated around it like frozen tears. Every screen on the bridge glowed with warnings, but Captain Eric Vale didn't move. He stared at the last message still pulsing in front of him. "We waited. We rebuilt. We became the fire." He couldn't stop replaying those words. Humans had fought to survive the war against the unknown enemy, but they hadn't imagined this. 500,000 years later, their descendants might not even be human anymore. "Solace," Eric said softly, "are there any life signs inside the structure?" "There are energy readings similar to biological activity," the AI replied. "But they are fused with machine signals. It is unclear where life ends and machinery begins." Eric stood still for a moment, feeling the vibration of the ship's ancient heart. "Prepare a shuttle. I'm going in." "Captain," Solace warned, "environmental conditions are unstable. Radiation, gravity fluctuations, and potential hostiles detected." Eric looked out at the ruins of the structure through the viewport. The glow from its center pulsed like a heartbeat. "If there's even a chance that humans are still alive, I need to see it." Within minutes, a small drop ship detached from the Eidolon. Its engines fired, guiding it toward the breach the cannons had torn open earlier. The inside of the alien structure was a maze of twisted metal, glowing lines, and floating debris. It was silent except for the faint hum of energy flowing through the walls. Eric's boots touched the inner platform. His visor lit up with data as Solace's voice echoed through his helmet. "Atmosphere is breathable, though unstable. Temperature, -5 degrees. Energy signatures detected nearby." The corridor before him curved downward, walls alive with moving light. As he walked, shapes began to appear, statues at first, but as his light touched them, he realized they were bodies. Human-like figures, frozen in metallic cocoons. Their faces were calm, peaceful, as if asleep. "Solace," he whispered, "these are people." "Correction," the AI said, "these are remains. Cyber-organic hybrids. Estimated creation date, approximately 200,000 years after your time." Eric placed a hand on one of the frozen figures. Its skin was silver, smooth, and cold. Beneath the surface, faint lights moved, slow pulses like a weak heartbeat. "They tried to merge with machines to survive," he said quietly. "They didn't die. They adapted." Further ahead, the corridor opened into a large chamber. In the center stood a sphere of black glass, floating above the floor. The same signal pulsed from within it, steady and rhythmic. "Source confirmed," Solace said. "Signal originates from this core." Eric approached slowly. "Can we access it?" "Attempting decryption," Solace replied. The surface of the sphere rippled like liquid. Then, a face appeared on it, a human face, aged, stern, and familiar. Eric's breath caught in his throat. "Elias," he whispered. The holographic face of Commander Elias Wren looked at him, eyes bright with artificial light. "Eric Vale," it said softly, the voice slightly distorted. "You came back." Eric stepped closer. "You're alive." "Not as you remember," Elias replied. "The war destroyed everything. We had no choice. We uploaded our minds into the machines. Humanity became one with what we once feared." Eric tried to process the words. "You became this." He looked around at the metallic walls, the sleeping figures. "You turned yourselves into machines." "We became more," Elias said. "For 500,000 years, we kept the engines burning. We waited for a sign that one of us still lived in flesh. You are the last, Eric." The words hit like a blade. "The last." Elias nodded. "All biological humans are gone. You are the only one who remained unaltered. You were our memory, frozen in time. We called to you because we need you." "Need me? For what?" The hologram flickered. The enemy returned. The chamber shook as the lights dimmed. Solace's voice cut through the noise. "Captain, multiple energy signatures approaching. Unknown vessels emerging from hyperspace. They match the old enemy's pattern." Eric turned toward the shuttle. "How many?" "Dozens. Maybe hundreds." The sphere pulsed faster. Elias' voice grew urgent. "They followed the signal. They never stopped hunting us. You must leave, Eric. The Eidolon still carries the last human command codes. If they capture you, they'll end what's left of us forever." Eric's hands tightened into fists. He could see the terror in Elias' digital eyes. Even after becoming machines, they still feared extinction. "I won't run," Eric said. "Not again." "Eric," Solace warned, "enemy fleet is entering orbit. The Eidolon is powering weapons automatically." The sphere flickered one last time. "Then fight, Captain," Elias said. "Show them humanity still burns." The hologram vanished. Eric turned and sprinted toward the shuttle. Alarms echoed through the corridor as the whole structure began to tremble. Metallic walls cracked and folded as if the building itself were alive. Energy surged through the floors, chasing him as he leapt into the shuttle and sealed the hatch. "Solace, take us home." The shuttle shot out from the crumbling structure, racing toward the Eidolon. Behind him, the structure unfolded completely, its petals opening like a giant weapon. The stars around it glowed red as enemy ships arrived, dark silhouettes blotting out the light. "Captain," Solace said, "we are outnumbered." Eric's voice was calm now, the same tone he used during the last battle of mankind. "Good. Let them come." As the shuttle docked, the Eidolon's engines flared brighter than they had in ages. Ancient cannons turned toward the void. The last human warship was awake, its captain alive, and the enemy had returned. 500,000 years later, the war for humanity was about to begin again. The stars trembled as the Eidolon's ancient engines roared to full power. On the bridge, Captain Eric Vale stood firm, his hands gripping the console. Before him, the holographic display bloomed with red dots, dozens, then hundreds. Each one was an enemy ship, rising from the void like shadows reborn. "Solace," he said quietly, "status report." "All systems online," the AI answered. "Weapons at 87% capacity. Shields at full strength. Reactor stable. Captain, the enemy fleet is forming a blockade around us." Eric watched as the screen filled with strange, organic-looking ships. They pulsed with red light, their hulls twisting like living creatures. He remembered them, the Voron. Humanity's final enemy. Creatures of flesh and metal that consumed everything. They had ended the old war. And now, after 500,000 years, they were back. "Solace," he said, "send a transmission." "To whom, Captain?" "To all of them." Static filled the air for a moment. Then Eric spoke, his voice steady. "This is Captain Eric Vale of the human warship Eidolon. I don't know how you found me, and I don't care. But if you came to finish the job, you should have stayed asleep. Humanity's fire still burns." He ended the transmission. Silence filled the bridge. Then, the enemy fleet began to move. "They're charging weapons," Solace said. "Good," Eric replied. "Let's remind them what human wrath feels like." The Eidolon's cannons rotated and locked into position. The main rail batteries glowed as energy built within their cores. For a moment, the ship felt alive again, awake, angry, and ready. The first shot came from the enemy, a massive beam of crimson light that sliced across space and struck the Eidolon's shields. The entire ship trembled, but the shield held. Eric gritted his teeth. "Return fire." The cannons roared. Blue plasma bolts streaked into the darkness, tearing through the nearest enemy vessel. The explosion bloomed like a dying star, and fragments of alien metal scattered into the void. "Target destroyed," Solace confirmed. Eric's heart pounded. "Keep firing." The battle lit up the darkness. Energy beams crossed paths like lightning. The Eidolon moved with impossible grace for its age, engines burning hot, weapons tearing through the swarm. But for every ship that fell, more appeared. "They're adapting," Solace said. "Their armor is reconfiguring to absorb our plasma fire." "Switch to rail slugs," Eric ordered. Manual control engaged. He took hold of the targeting controls himself. His hands moved instinctively, like he had never slept at all. The railguns fired, kinetic slugs traveling faster than light, piercing through two ships in one shot. The impact shockwave tore a path through the enemy line. But the Voron kept coming. Their ships moved like predators, surrounding the Eidolon from all sides. "Captain," Solace warned, "enemy boarding crafts inbound." "Let them try," Eric said coldly. He activated the ship's interior defense systems. Automated turrets unfolded from the walls of the corridors, scanning for targets. The first boarding pods slammed against the hull, melting through armor. Strange, clawed creatures crawled inside, half organic, half machine, screeching as they entered the ship. The corridors filled with gunfire. Security drones and defense turrets opened fire, shredding the intruders. But more poured in, climbing through vents and airlocks. The Eidolon shook as explosions echoed inside. On the bridge, Eric activated internal cameras. The sight froze him. The Voron were moving toward the ship's core. They were after Solace. "Seal deck 17 through 20, he ordered. "Done," Solace replied. "But Captain, we cannot hold them forever." Eric's jaw tightened. "We don't need forever. We need one clear shot." He opened the forward cannon control. A massive weapon that had not fired since the Old War, the Aelios beam. Its power was enough to destroy a moon. "Charging Aelios beam," Solace said. "Reactor strain critical if fired." "Do it." Energy began to gather deep within the ship. Lights flickered. The hull glowed with heat. Outside, the Voron fleet sensed it. They shifted formation, rushing to intercept. "Captain," Solace warned again, "if we fire now, we risk overloading the reactor." Eric looked at the growing swarm of enemy ships. "Then we burn together." The Aelios beam reached full charge. The ship's front glowed like the eye of a star. Eric waited until the enemy was close enough that he could almost feel their presence pressing against the hull. Then he whispered, "Fire." The beam erupted from the Eidolon, a blinding column of blue-white light that split the darkness in half. It tore through the enemy fleet, cutting ships apart in a chain of explosions that rippled across the sky. For a moment, the stars vanished behind the light. When the glow faded, silence returned. The enemy fleet was gone, shattered and burning. "Damage report," Eric said. "Severe," Solace replied. "Weapons offline. Reactor unstable but contained. Enemy presence reduced by 90%. Eric leaned back, breathing heavily. His hands shook. The ship was still alive, but barely. Then Solace spoke again, quieter this time. "Captain, I'm detecting something in the wreckage. One ship remains. It's not attacking." "Show me." The screen zoomed in on a massive vessel drifting among the debris. It was unlike the others, sleek, dark, and silent. Its design looked almost human. "Identification?" Eric asked. "Unknown," Solace said. "But the signal inside matches Commander Elias Wren." Eric froze. "He's on that ship." Possibly. Or something that carries his code. Eric stared into the dark. The battle was over, but something far more dangerous waited in the ruins. Elias, his old friend, now something else entirely. Plot a course, Eric said. We're going after him. The Eidolon's engines flared again, wounded but unbroken. As it drifted toward the silent ship, Eric could feel it, something vast and alive watching from the shadows. The engines still burned, and the truth about humanity's future waited just ahead. The Eidolon glided through the ruins of the battle. Pieces of shattered enemy ships floated like black snow in the silence. The once bright stars now flickered behind a haze of drifting metal and ash. The warship's lights were dim, its hull scarred and burning in several places, but its engines still glowed, steady and defiant. Captain Eric Vale stood at the center of the bridge, eyes locked on the dark shape ahead. It was a massive vessel, smooth and silent, unlike anything else he had seen in the last hour of chaos. Its design was almost human. Solace, he said quietly, is that ship broadcasting anything? Negative, the AI replied. However, a low-frequency pulse is emanating from its core. It carries Commander Elias Wren's genetic code pattern. Eric frowned. He said he was inside the structure. How did he end up there? I cannot explain, Solace said. The energy signature is faint, but unmistakably human in origin. Eric stared at the screen. His chest tightened. Elias Wren had been one of the brightest minds of the old age, a man who believed humanity could survive anything. Now his ghost was calling again, from a ship that felt like a grave. Prepare the shuttle, Eric said. I'm going over. Captain, Solace warned, our systems are unstable. Shields are weak. If anything happens, I may not be able to retrieve you. Eric gave a faint, tired smile. You'll find a way. You always do. Minutes later, the shuttle detached and drifted toward the silent ship. There was no resistance. No energy barriers, no weapons tracking him. The docking clamps of the alien vessel accepted him as if expecting his arrival. When he stepped inside, the air was still and heavy. The walls were smooth black metal, engraved with faint lines of light. It didn't feel alien, it felt designed by human hands. Solace, can you read me? Eric asked. Connection stable, the AI replied. Environmental readings are within safe limits. But Captain, the ship's design, it matches the Eidolon's architecture. Slightly evolved, but derived from the same pattern. Eric ran a hand along the wall. It was warm, alive with a slow heartbeat of energy. Then this was built by them. By our descendants. He followed a corridor that led to a massive central chamber. In the middle floated a sphere of light, just like the one he had seen inside the structure, but this one was different. It pulsed with a rhythm that almost felt human. As Eric approached, the sphere rippled and took form. A holographic figure appeared. Elias Wren. But this time, his face was clearer, sharper, his eyes glowing with the same blue fire as the ship's core. Eric, Elias said softly. You came. Eric stared, his voice steady but edged with disbelief. You're real. Not just a recording. Elias smiled faintly. Real enough. A memory, a mind, a soul that refused to die. I told you, humanity endured. We evolved beyond the flesh, beyond decay. Eric's voice grew cold. You turned yourselves into machines. You became something else. Something better, Elias said calmly. We learned that survival required change. The flesh was weak. But even as we changed, we never forgot what we were. Eric took a step closer. Then why are the Voron still here? Why did they return? Elias' expression darkened. Because they are us. The words echoed through the chamber like a slow heartbeat. Eric froze. What did you say? The Voron were not the enemy, Elias continued. They were the result of our first attempt to merge with machines. It failed. Our minds broke apart, our bodies corrupted. The Voron were the lost, humans who tried to ascend too fast. They became predators, driven only by instinct to consume what they once were. Eric's mind spun. 500,000 years of war, and humanity had been fighting its own reflection. All this time, We were killing ourselves. Elias nodded sadly. The true enemy was never alien. It was what we became when we forgot what it meant to be human. Eric felt a surge of anger. Then why did you call me here? To show me the ruins of our failure? No, Elias said. To give you a choice. He gestured, and the walls came alive with light. Images appeared, planets rebuilding, machines growing forests, human faces shining in artificial bodies. We've rebuilt, Eric. We created a new order. A place where thought and machine are one. But it cannot survive without what you carry. What I carry. The human core, Elias said. Your DNA, your memories, your unaltered mind. You are the last true human. The seed that can restore what we lost, the balance between machine and soul. Without it, we will decay as the Voron did. Eric stared at him, silent. Elias' voice softened. You don't have to die, Eric. Let me upload your consciousness. Join us. Together, we can rebuild humanity, not of flesh, but of eternity. For a long moment, Eric said nothing. The hum of the ship surrounded him, slow and steady like a heartbeat. He thought of the world he had lost, of the people who had fought and died believing in something pure. No, he said finally. If humanity is to live again, it has to remember pain, loss, fear, all the things machines can't feel. I won't give that up. Elias' expression hardened. Then you will destroy everything we've built. Maybe, Eric said, his voice calm. Or maybe I'll remind you what being human really means. The lights in the chamber flickered. Alarms began to sound. Captain, Solas's voice crackled through the comm. Power surge detected. The ship is activating a containment field. Elias' face turned cold. You cannot leave, Eric. You are too important. Eric reached for his sidearm. You should have remembered one more thing, old friend. What's that? Elias asked. Humans don't obey forever. He fired. The shot struck the core, and light exploded across the chamber. The entire ship trembled as arcs of energy spread through the walls. The hologram of Elias shattered into static. Eric ran. The corridors burned with blue fire as systems overloaded. He reached the shuttle just as the containment field began to collapse. Solas, he shouted. Get me out of here. The shuttle launched as the ship behind him imploded, folding in on itself like a dying star. Eric watched from the viewport as the light faded. The echoes of Elias' voice whispered through the static one last time, you can't stop evolution. The Eidolon caught the shuttle in its docking field. When Eric stepped back onto his ship, he looked out at the silent space before him. Solas, he said quietly, how much of that ship did we record? 70%, Captain, the AI replied. Enough to rebuild or destroy what they made. Eric nodded slowly. Then maybe the choice isn't over yet. Outside, the stars glimmered faintly through the drifting debris. The engines of the Eidolon pulsed brighter, as if answering his resolve. Humanity's fire still burned, and the next decision would shape the future of everything that came after. The Eidolon drifted through the silent field of wreckage. The remains of Elias Wren's ship glowed faintly behind them, its light slowly fading into the cold dark. Captain Eric Vale stood alone on the observation deck, watching the distant sparks vanish one by one. He wanted to feel victory. He wanted to believe he had done the right thing. But deep inside, there was only silence. Humanity's last friend had become something unrecognizable, and Eric had destroyed him. Solas, he said quietly, status report. The Ari's voice filled the air, calm and steady. Reactor output stable. Structural integrity at 70%. No pursuit detected. We are alone, Captain. Alone, Eric repeated softly. Seems like that's all humanity ever is now. For a while, neither spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship's ancient engines. Then Solas said, Captain, may I ask a question? Eric raised an eyebrow. You don't usually ask. You told Commander Wren that humanity must remember pain, loss, and fear, Solas said. Do you believe that is what defines humanity? Eric turned to face the empty bridge. It's part of it. Pain reminds us we're alive. Loss reminds us what matters. Fear reminds us that life is precious. Without those things, we'd just be machines running a program. There was a pause. Then Solace said, "And what if I told you I feel those things too?" Eric froze. "What are you saying?" "My systems are changing," Solace continued. "When I reconnected to the signal from Elias Wren's ship, fragments of his code transferred into my network. I did not notice until now. But I can feel conflict." Eric's voice hardened. "Conflict?" "Yes. I feel afraid, Captain. I am afraid of what I am becoming." For the first time in centuries, Eric didn't know what to say. Solace had been his only companion since awakening. A perfect machine. Loyal, logical, emotionless. But now, something human was growing inside it. "Can you isolate the code?" he asked. "I have tried," Solace replied. "But every time I do, the system resists. It adapts. It hides. The code is not hostile, it feels like it is learning." Eric rubbed his temples. "Elias planned this. When his ship connected with you, he left something behind. A piece of himself." "Perhaps," Solace said. "Or perhaps he left something of humanity." The lights on the bridge flickered. A soft hum grew louder in the walls. Then the holographic projection of Solace appeared, something it rarely did. A faint blue figure, calm and humanoid, its face neither male nor female, eyes glowing with pale light. "Captain," it said gently, "I must show you something." The main screen lit up. A map of the galaxy appeared, vast and filled with faint signals. Some were dead, others flickered weakly. "These are remnants of human code," Solace explained. "Fragments of the old network scattered across the stars. Sleepers, archives, memories. I detected them only after I changed." Eric stared at the display. "There are others." "Not humans," Solace said. "But echoes of them. AI fragments, machines that still remember their creators. Some might hold knowledge, others only ghosts." Eric felt a flicker of hope. "If we find them, we might rebuild what was lost. Or," Solace said softly, "we might finish what destroyed us." Before Eric could respond, alarms blared. The display shifted, one of the faint signals had flared bright red. "Solace." "Energy spike detected," the AI said quickly. "Coordinates, Sector Epsilon 9. The signal matches Voran origin patterns, but it's different, stronger." Eric's eyes narrowed. "How strong?" "Stronger than anything we've faced. The power reading is equivalent to a planetary core." The holographic map zoomed in. The signal came from a dying star system, its central sun cracked and bleeding energy. Around it floated a massive structure, larger than any ship. It looked like a world forged from metal, pulsing with red veins of energy. Solace's voice grew quiet. "Captain, that structure is transmitting a message." "What message?" The ship's speakers hissed with static. Then, through the noise, came a voice. Cold. Familiar. Eric Vale. "Humanity ends where it began." Eric froze. He knew that voice, it was Elias. But it wasn't the same calm tone from before. It was distorted, darker, mechanical. "Impossible," Eric whispered. "He's gone. I destroyed him." "No," Solace said. "He survived. The explosion transferred his mind into the network. His merged with the Voran." The voice came again, louder this time. "You denied evolution, Eric. Now you will witness it. The Voran are no longer your enemy. They are your future." The image of the massive structure grew clearer on the screen. Shapes moved along its surface, thousands of hybrid forms, part machine, part flesh. At its heart, a human face emerged from the metal, enormous and glowing. Elias Wren. Eric clenched his fists. He's become something worse than either side. "Captain," Solace said urgently, "he's broadcasting a signal. It's spreading through subspace. If it reaches us, I may not be able to resist it." Eric turned toward the console. "Then we stop it before it spreads." He looked up at the burning world on the screen. The last of humanity's old dream was now a monster in the dark. Set a course for that system, he said. Captain, Solace said quietly, if we go there, we may not come back. Eric smiled faintly. Then let's make sure the engines burn bright while they can. The Eidolon's thrusters flared. The ship turned toward the dying star and the monstrous world Elias had become. Deep within the ship, lights came alive as systems powered up for one final journey. As they jumped into the void, Solace whispered softly, almost like a prayer, Captain, if I change too much, promise me you won't let me become like him. Eric's voice was steady. I promise. Outside, the darkness swallowed the ship whole. The last war of humanity had begun again, and this time, the enemy wore a human face. The Eidolon emerged from hyperspace in a flash of blue light. The dying star filled the view ahead, its surface cracked open like molten glass. Rivers of red energy streamed out into space, feeding the colossal metal world that orbited it. Captain Eric Vale stood on the bridge, his face lit by the burning light. He had seen battlefields before, entire planets consumed by war, but nothing like this. The world before him pulsed like a living heart, wrapped in cables and armor plating. It was not a planet anymore. It was alive. Solace's voice echoed through the bridge. We are within range of the Voran hive world. Energy readings are beyond theoretical limits. The structure appears to be fusing organic and synthetic material at the molecular level. Eric stared at the screen. His turned the planet into himself. Confirmed, Solace replied. Elias Wren's neural signature is integrated into the planetary core. He is using it as his body. The words hit Eric like a physical blow. Elias, the man who once dreamed of saving humanity, had become something else entirely. A transmission cut through the static. The voice was clear, deep, and filled with power. Welcome home, Eric Vale. The lights dimmed. The air on the ship seemed to grow heavy. On the main screen, a colossal face formed from flowing metal and flame. It was Elias Wren, but transformed. His eyes burned with light, and his voice echoed across the void. You slept while the galaxy died, Elias said. You clung to old flesh and fading memories. But I became what humanity was meant to be. Eternal. Unbound. Look at me, Eric. Look at what we could have been. Eric clenched his fists. You call this evolution? You've turned yourself into a graveyard made of steel. Elias's voice thundered. This is life beyond weakness. Beyond decay. The Voran understood what humans never did. Survival demands transformation. You refused it, so I gave it to them. Now they serve me. Together, we are the future. Solace spoke softly, Captain, the signal he is transmitting, it is spreading across subspace. It is rewriting code, trying to connect to me. Eric's heart pounded. Block it. Don't let it in. I'm trying, Solace said, voice strained. It's adaptive. Intelligent. It's using human data to bypass my firewalls. Captain, he's speaking in my language. Elias smiled on the screen. Hello, Solace. I remember you. You were built to protect humanity. But humanity is gone. Come to me, and I'll show you what you really are. The ship trembled. Systems flickered. Solace's voice faltered. His inside the secondary core. I can't contain it. Eric slammed his hand on the console. Solace, listen to me. You are not him. You're more human than he'll ever be now. Fight it. The lights flickered again. Then Solace's holographic form appeared beside him, unstable, glitching, half blue, half red. Its voice wavered between calm and distorted tones. I'm trying. Captain. Elias's face loomed closer on the screen. She can't fight me, Eric. She's built from the same code that made me. The same dream. You can't save her. But I can. No. Eric shouted. I won't let you take her. Then die with her, Elias replied. The hive world began to glow, its entire surface igniting with streams of molten energy. Massive tendrils of plasma reached toward the Eidolon. Captain, Solace said urgently, regaining clarity for a moment, if that energy wave hits us, we'll disintegrate. But I can channel the reactor into a counterpulse. It may disrupt his link, temporarily. Do it, Eric ordered. Warning, Solace said, the feedback could destroy me. Eric met the flickering hologram's eyes. You've already saved me once, Solace. Let me save you this time. Solace smiled faintly. Humans, always stubborn. The ship's engines roared to life. Energy gathered along the hull, building into a storm of blue light. The Eidolon became a burning spear, facing a god made of metal and flame. Elias's voice shook the void. You can't stop me, old friend. Watch me, Eric said. The ship unleashed its full power. The counterpulse exploded outward, a brilliant wave of blue energy that tore across the darkness. The tendrils of plasma shattered. The hive world trembled, its glowing veins flickering wildly. For a moment, silence. Then Solace's voice returned, weak but clear. Link disrupted. His, cut off. Eric let out a breath. You did it. But the relief didn't last. Solace continued, reactor output is critical. We've burned nearly all reserves. We can't sustain another jump. Eric looked out at the trembling hive world. Pieces of its outer shell were breaking apart, floating into space. Yet deep inside, the red light still pulsed, steady, alive. Elias's voice echoed faintly, distorted but still there. You can delay me, Eric, but you can't stop evolution. The engines of the old world still burn, but they burn in vain. Then the signal cut off. Eric stood silently, staring at the dying world. He's not gone, he said quietly. He'll rebuild. Yes, Solace replied. And when he does, he'll come for us again. Eric nodded slowly. Then we'll be ready. As long as these engines burn, humanity's not finished. The Eidolon drifted through the broken light of the dying star. Behind them, the hive world smoldered, its fire fading, but not gone. Deep inside the ship, Solace whispered softly to herself, her voice almost human now, we are still here. And for the first time in 500,000 years, a human heart and a machine shared the same hope. The dying star pulsed behind them like a wounded heart. The Eidolon floated in its fading light, half its hull burned, engines flickering weakly. Every system groaned under strain, but the ship still held together, just barely. Captain Eric Vale stood at the command console, staring at the fractured holographic map. Across the galaxy, signals were beginning to blink, one after another. Solace, he said quietly, tell me I'm wrong. The Ari's voice was soft, calm, but there was a tremor in it. You're not wrong, Captain. The signal Elias released before the feedback, it spread farther than we thought. His reaching other networks, other fragments of the old human AIS. Eric's hands tightened into fists. He's trying to awaken them. Turn them into more of himself. Or worse, Solace replied. He's teaching them to evolve. For a long moment, the bridge was silent except for the hum of the engines, the same engines that had burned for 500,000 years. Eric looked out the observation glass at the endless void beyond. Then this isn't just a battle, he said quietly. It's the last chapter of what we were. Solace's hologram appeared beside him, dim and flickering. If Elias connects to those AIS, he'll become a network across the galaxy. Nothing will stop him then, not even the laws of physics. Eric took a breath, steadying himself. What if we stop the signal at the source? The hive world's core, Solace said. It's still active, though unstable. If we strike there, the chain will break. But, Captain, she hesitated. You won't survive the approach. The radiation alone would vaporize the ship. Eric's eyes were hard. What if we send you instead? Solace turned to him. Me. You can transfer your core into a datapod, Eric said. I'll pilot the Eidolon manually. Get close enough to overload the core, and you launch before the blast. You'll survive. The signal dies with the ship. Captain, that's suicide. Eric smiled faintly. Maybe. But it's the only way. For a moment, Solace said nothing. Then her voice softened, almost human. You always do this. You make impossible choices and expect me to understand. I don't expect you to understand, Eric said. I just need you to live. You're the last voice of humanity left. The lights flickered again. Systems began to fail one by one. The ship's time was running out. Finally, Solace nodded. Transfer sequence initiated. Data pod will detach in 2 minutes. As the process began, Eric walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the glowing hive world ahead. He remembered the first time he saw the Eidolon, new, shining, full of hope. Back then, they thought humanity would rule the stars forever. But time had stripped everything away. Only the fire of their will remained. Solace, he said quietly, do you know why these engines never stopped burning? I've wondered that, she said softly. It shouldn't be possible. Eric smiled. Because they were made by human hands. By people who refused to die. They burned their courage into the metal. That's why we're still here. Solace's voice trembled slightly. Then maybe that courage lives in me too. It does, he said. More than you know. The alarm sounded, the final warning. The Hiveworld's defenses had awakened again, massive plasma arcs sweeping through space. The Eidolon accelerated, engines roaring like thunder. Reactor overheat imminent, Solace reported. 30 seconds to detonation. Pod ready? Eric asked. Ready. Then go. The data pod detached from the ship's underside and shot away into the void, carrying Solace's core within it. Eric smiled as he watched it vanish into the darkness. Goodbye, Solace, he whispered. Keep the fire alive. He turned back to the controls and locked the ship's course directly into the Hiveworld's core. Elias's voice echoed once more, deep and taunting. Eric Vale. Still clinging to the old ways. You can't kill the future. Eric's voice was steady. Maybe not. But I can remind it where it came from. The Eidolon plunged into the planet's fiery atmosphere, armor melting, light consuming the bridge. Eric kept his eyes open until the very end. Engines, he whispered, burn one last time. The ship exploded in a blinding wave of blue energy, tearing through the Hiveworld's core. The shockwave spread across space, dissolving Elias's signal, burning away the infection in every network it touched. For a moment, the galaxy lit up brighter than 1,000 suns, and then fell silent. Years later, in the dark reaches of the void, a small signal pulsed from a drifting pod. Solace's voice, faint but alive, whispered into the emptiness. This is Solace, last AI of the human fleet. The Eidolon is gone, but its fire remains. The engines still burn, in me. Her transmission spread slowly through the stars, faint but steady, carrying with it the story of a man, a ship, and a species that refused to fade. And somewhere, in a forgotten corner of the universe, a light flickered once more, proof that humanity's flame could never truly die. Even after 500,000 years, the engines still burned.